Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Mondays with Moss. Finishing up the summer. Actually, we're into September, and we got a break and have some nice weather. So I decided to come down to the beach, hang out for a couple days, and do a broadcast from the beach. So this is a program that is designed to help you to live an extraordinary life, a life of success, accomplishment, and happiness. And what we've been talking about is really moving into developing a toolkit to live your great life. And for the last several weeks, I've been looking at a notion called the stories in your mind. Stories in your mind. Basically, how we become victims and survivors, sometimes become navigators. But I think for the most part, we have to learn how to be a life navigator. So, usually what happens early in life, during childhood, adolescence, something bad happens. We interpret something as really tragic: loss of relationship, a betrayal of trust, a major failure, an abandonment, um, and it becomes a major disappointment and hurt. And it forms a deep wound in our early minds. And we develop, unfortunately, because it happens so early, most of the times this happens around 4 to 7 years of age, our brains are not developed enough to really take a step back and appreciate with perspective what it's about. So instead of just looking at it as an incident, it becomes a life wound, goes very deep organically into our organic, physiological, emotional memory, and we make a major decision, such as life is dangerous, can't trust people, I have to be careful, be nice in order to get along and survive and not be hurt again. So the mind gloms onto this story, this formula, and it becomes our filter or major strategy to get through life. So unfortunately, we end up often living life as victims and survivors, trying really hard to get out of it. But as long as you have the same filter or lens or glasses, if you're coming from the same story, your life doesn't have much of a different ending. It really ends up pretty dissatisfying. And because it's developed at a very early age, we're wired into the story. The story becomes part of our way of being. Rather than an incident that we can learn from, it becomes who we are. And the mind's mission, then, the mission of the mind, is to keep us safe, keep us protected, but it's coming from the story called Life is Dangerous, something bad's going to happen. So it's hard to live an extraordinary life if you're carrying this kind of baggage and the anxieties that no longer really make sense in your adult life. You need a mind upgrade. You need to upgrade your mind based upon a more evolved thinking and beliefs and formulas that are better suited to your adult life. So, as an adult, it's good to have these stories. They're kind of interesting. They form our memory, but you don't necessarily want to believe it. You want to hear it, notice it, and then realize any annoyance or frustration you're having now as an adult, it doesn't have to trigger off the emotional avalanche of the misery that you felt when you were younger. So, if I'm correct, are you then doomed to struggle forever and be a victim or a survivor? No. You can actually have corrective experiences, meet someone who's more nurturing, develop trust, or you can actually redesign your mind. Yes, I'm saying you can redesign your mind. Why not? You renovate and redesign your homes. Why not redesign your mind? If it's a story, why not become a better story writer and change the story? You see, our thoughts and beliefs get wired into our brain. And if you change your thoughts and change your beliefs, you change your brain. If you change your brain, you change your life, you change your destiny. So what I'm attempting to do here in my toolkit for living an extraordinary life is to give you the tools that will allow you to become masters of your destiny, not slaves of your past. So the mind we no longer expect the mind to control our feelings and relationship through this ancient story that we have based upon what happened to us decades ago. We're ready to redesign our life and upgrade our brain. So I have an exercise for you for redesigning the map of your future. It's basically, I get it from my book, Navigating for Success, and I want to give you an opportunity to, rather than be anchored in the past of your mind and the tragic story or anxious story that you're telling yourself, or it's being told to you. It's not even you thinking it, it's just being thought at you, and then we believe it. So here's an exercise that takes you out of the past and into the future. Okay? So just imagine and I would suggest you get a pencil or a pen or work on your laptop to do this. Imagine you're being given an award for the success that you've achieved during your lifetime as living life as a navigator, someone who is a mind designer, someone who is a master of life destiny. So you're being given this award, and it's about 5-10 years from now, you, your family, your colleagues, and friends are all gathered together, and other people who are part of your success experience. And you're preparing a speech that you'll deliver to your audience. And in your speech, I want you to think about the following. What accomplishments are you most proud of? In other words, think about the life you're designing that you really, really want, that would give your life passion and like Technicolor, not black and white. So look at the accomplishments that you've accomplished. Let your mind, this is a brainstorming exercise, so don't try to figure it out. Just let your imagination take you there. So what accomplishments are you proud of? What have you been most passionate about in your life? What actions did you take to get to make your success real? Share with your audience. What did you do to make your life come about? Very importantly, what obstacles did you have to overcome to reach your goals? How did you deal with these obstacles? How did you persevere? How come you have resilience? What made you stick it out? Who else contributed to your success besides you? Who do you want to acknowledge in the audience? Your wife, your kids, colleagues? What have you learned along the way? What basic life lessons are important here? What do you now love about your life? And what's the legacy you want to leave your audience? So that's an exercise. It'll probably take you about 20 minutes to do it if you're going to do it. But I promise you, if as you step into the future and let your imagination soar, you'll leave the victimization, the survivorhood of the past, create a movie of the future. It is a story, just like your mind, but you're creating it rather than the story creating you. I just want to free you up from the slavery and tyranny of the story and have you create a life worth having. Okay? So, this idea of redesigning your life comes from an idea written by Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. He says, start with the end in mind. Create the dream and then come back and manage it. So life leadership, life navigation is creating first. Managing is coming back and doing it. So some key questions to think about are, what have you been passionate about? What goals have you set? And what are the actions you took to reach that success? And that then gives you the formula for success. Success equals passion plus goals plus actions plus being resilient. So it's an exercise that will help reprogram your unconscious. So some of the bullet points that we've been looking at. The story in your mind, I suggest, has been controlling you. You're not controlling the story. You didn't know this because you came up with the story when you were a little kid and you didn't have the brain sophistication as a 26, 27-year-old to step back and just say, oh, that's just an interpretation. It's just a story. You didn't do anything wrong. You might feel guilt and shame and anxiety, but it's all based upon an irrelevant ancient story that no longer fits. Your mind sees this story as an explanation of your life, and you've been living your life through the story. If you love your story, great, continue doing it. If not, good news, we can change your story. If we change your story, we'll change your life. So we're talking here about becoming a master of your destiny. If you can make a correction to your limited story and start with the end in mind and come up with a new one, you now have a new GPS to govern your life. And using the success formula from my book, which is passion plus goals, plus action, plus resiliency, gives you success. Albert Schweitzer once said, if you love what you're doing, you will be successful. So what I'm attempting to do here is to guide you and coach you to create a life that you love, a life you're passionate about, not one that you're going to regret later on and ask yourself, why didn't I? I'm suggesting do it now and figure it out along the way. Okay, so the toolkit that we're looking at today and over the next several weeks is, number one, some of the tools are, you need to be aware. You need to be aware of the story in your mind. You need to be aware that it's made up. That's not true. It's just a story. And that you have a choice. Either believe the story or don't believe the story. It's just a story. Maybe you can learn something from the story, but I'd suggest you don't become a victim or a survivor to it, because then your life is predetermined. So we're creating a new story based upon what you're passionate about and about my Navigating for Success formula. If you want to learn more about it, go on Amazon, order my books. I have two books there, Navigating for Success, and I Didn't Come to Say Goodbye, Navigating the Psychology of Immortality. Both books give you the formula. With the first book, Navigating for Success, I interviewed about 20 people who are victims, survivors, and navigators, and I tell their story, and I help you understand the formula for success. So hope you enjoyed today's session. I'm going to go for a bike ride and enjoy that. And next week, I think I'm going to give a talk on your three brains, the three brains that you need to pay attention to. Because if you don't know these three brains, your survival brain, which is involved in safety, your emotional brain, which is involved in making connections to people and bonding, and your thinking brain, which is involved in problem solving and having control in life, you will just flounder. So look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Have a great week. Bye.